Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. It's Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Today is day 704. I have lots of updates today, so I'm going to jump right in. In the last 24 hours, one of the most significant things that has happened is really quite unbelievable. Israel bombed Qatar. I'm like, what is happening in the Middle East? So today, Israel bombed Qatar. Their argument is they weren't really bombing Qatar. They were bombing Hamas's headquarters in Qatar. But let's be clear, they may have bombed Hamas's headquarters, but it was the headquarters of the negotiating team that's working towards a ceasefire deal. And it was in the sovereign territory of Qatar. That's one of the primary states that's actively trying to broker a deal. This is really unheard of. So Israel bombed the very team that is negotiating for hostage release, ceasefire deal, a ceasefire agreement in the state that is one of the most significantly involved in ceasefire negotiations. This was in Doha, Qatar. Israel struck a Hamas delegation site. 5 people were killed. This included Hammam al-Haya, the son of the chief Hamas negotiator. A Qatari security guard was also killed. Reports I've read indicate that these were lower-level staff who were killed in this attack, which really in large part can be seen as retaliation for the attack on people in Jerusalem just yesterday, a retaliation for the killing of 6 people in that terrorist attack in Jerusalem. Just today, we heard in the U.S. that the Qassam Brigade's Hamas's military wing took responsibility for that shooting attack that was on Monday. 6 people were killed in that attack. Dozens were wounded. Netanyahu said Israel decided on the Qatar strikes following the Jerusalem shooting, if there is any doubt. Now, the White House has been back and forth. What I heard the White House is saying and what the news is saying, and depending on which news you read, you hear lots of different stories. Did the U.S. know? Did the U.S. support the attack? The White House said the Israeli strike on Qatar is, quote, an unfortunate incident, that killing Hamas leaders is a worthy goal. So they didn't condemn the attack. They said it was unfortunate. Trump has made his thoughts and concerns about the Israeli strike on Doha very clear, said the White House Press Secretary Leavitt. She said this in a statement, saying that the U.S., quote, feels very badly about the location, end quote, of the Israeli strikes. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and a close ally of the U.S. that is working very hard and bravely, taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel's or America's goals, she said. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal, she added. Leavitt said that Trump immediately directed Special Envoy Witkoff to notify Qatar of the impending attack and believes that this unfortunate incident could serve as an opportunity for peace. Now, when asked about the potential consequences for Prime Minister Netanyahu following the strikes, Leavitt said that's only a decision the president can make. Now, Trump also said the decision to strike in Qatar was Netanyahu's alone. So U.S. President Donald Trump said that the Israeli decision to attempt to assassinate senior Hamas officials in Doha was made by Netanyahu and not by him. And so I won't repeat the quote that I already read that came out of that press statement. But according to Trump, after the Israeli announcement ahead of the attack, he instructed Witkoff to inform the Qataris immediately. But unfortunately, they were informed too late to stop the attack. Now, Qatar said that Israel's working on sabotaging the Gaza ceasefire talks, that there were not weapons detected at the location where the bombing took place. The prime minister of Qatar said, that Israel is essentially trying to end the ceasefire talks via this mechanism. He said the U.S. officials first warned Qatar of the Israeli attack 10 minutes after it began. I don't even know how long, these attacks actually take. Turkey and Qatar are now discussing possible joint steps against Israel following the attack on Hamas and the delegation that was attacked in Doha. Turkey's President Erdogan told the Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani in a phone call on Tuesday today that Ankara will stand by Doha by all means after the Israeli attack. The Turkish presidency said in a statement that Erdogan and Thani discussed possible joint steps. Now, one of the parents of a hostage that continues to be held in Gaza, a non-Zonkauer whose son Meitan is still held, said that Netanyahu may have sealed her son's fate by striking the Hamas negotiating team. Meanwhile, in Gaza, dozens of people continue to be killed each and every day. In the last 24 hours, at least 41 people, many of them seeking aid, were killed by Israeli forces throughout the Gaza Strip. Israel's war on Gaza has killed 64,605 people, and that is still believed to be an underestimated number. Those wounded has now reached 163,319. Thousands more are believed to be under the rubble. There's a total of roughly 1,200 people who were killed on October 7th in Israel. About 240 were initially taken captive. A video that was verified by Al Jazeera's Sanad agency showed the moment today when an Israeli strike targeted the Ibn Taymiyyah Mosque, which is in Deir al-Balah in the central part of the Gaza Strip. The video shows a flash of light as the mosque's minaret is engulfed in a thick cloud of smoke, but appeared to still remain standing even after the explosion. The Israeli military earlier today issued an order for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians sheltering in Gaza City to evacuate immediately, stating that remaining in the area would remain extremely dangerous. Gaza City is currently home to nearly half of the territory's population. Many displaced Palestinians sheltering in the city say they do not know where to go in order to escape the strikes. According to the health ministry, 83 people were killed in the territory in the past 24 hours. That was according to the Wall Street Journal, Reuters, BBC News. I think that's from a day ago. An international activist group. This is actually, I'll give more of an update about this. But the flotilla is one of the vessels that was struck by a drone while it was docked in Tunisia. No one aboard was hurt, but the Tunisian Interior Ministry said that reports about the drone attack were unfounded. But activists, actually, I have a direct statement from those activists that I want to share with you. So the flotilla, this is the one that was turned around to Barcelona because of weather in the past few days. Greta Thunberg is on this flotilla. They put out a statement yesterday, a press statement that confirmed that one of the main boats that's known as the family boat that was carrying the GSF steering committee for the global Samud flotilla was struck by a drone in Tunisian waters. The boat is sailing under a Portuguese flag. All 6 passengers and the crew were safe, but there was fire damage that was caused to the main deck and below deck storage. An investigation is underway. They said that when there's more information, it would be released. Acts of aggression aimed at intimidating and derailing our mission will not deter us. Our peaceful mission to break the siege on Gaza and to stand in solidarity with its people continues with determination and resolve. Some of the minor news agencies around the world reported that there was global outrage after this Israeli drone attack on the Gaza flotilla. They talked about a wave of international condemnation. I think there have been many who have condemned the attack, but it's not really hit mainstream international news, if you will. But on social media, there have been numerous critics who have decried what they called an unlawful targeting of a peaceful mission. One commentator said Israel's a rogue state that's burning international law to the ground. Another highlighted the historical context that in 2010, 10 members of the first Gaza Freedom Flotilla were killed by Israel. And in May 2025, Israel bombed the Conscience ship that headed to Gaza. And today they likely bombed this family vessel. I won't give more information about the flotilla right now, but some other updates that I wanted to be sure to let you know about. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani yesterday pressed Hamas. This is before the attack on the very group that the Prime Minister of Qatar was pressing to respond positively to the new U.S. proposal for a Gaza ceasefire. This was according to officials who were very close to the Hamas chief negotiator. We don't know the outcome in that regard, but I would imagine that Hamas would be much less willing to negotiate after being bombed. We'll see more in the days ahead. Really, really incredible news. An Israeli citizen who actually was a student at Princeton. I talked about her on February 1st this past year, was just released from Iraq. Her name is Elizabeth Surkov. Elizabeth, this is what I wrote on February 1st. The Forward, which is one of the U.S.'s most significant Jewish news outlets, reported that there are other hostages than only those who were taken from Gaza on October 7th, 2023. Surkov, a Russian-Israeli graduate student at Princeton University, was doing field research with her dissertation, or for her dissertation, when militants from the Shiite group Kataib Hezbollah snatched her from a Baghdad cafe. She was taken captive on March 21st, 2023. Her case was in large part overshadowed by the 240 people who were abducted from Israel on October 7th. But in February, there were reports that a UK-based news outlet that covers Iran and Iraq reported that Iraq and Lebanon had proposed swapping Surkov, who was 38 years old at the time, for 7 Hezbollah fighters and a Lebanese naval captain. For those who've listened to these reports each and every day, you may remember this story. I remember it. I was thinking this lone hostage, at that point in February, she'd been held 682 days from the time that she had been kidnapped. Again, that was on February 1st, and it was announced today. This was announced actually by Netanyahu's office that her release had been coordinated by the coordinator for prisons and missing persons in Israel. The prime minister said, "We'll continue to fight with courage and determination until all hostages remain home." Certainly, the families of the hostages that are still held in Gaza don't believe that to be true. In Iran, Iran and the UN nuclear watchdog did reach an agreement on resuming inspections at Iranian nuclear facilities. That was announced by the head of the IAEA today. Rafael Grossi said that. And in Syria, Israel's been quite busy. They carried out additional airstrikes on central and western parts of Syria. It did not, the local news did not provide further details, but Damascus's foreign ministry condemned the strikes as a blatant infringement on Syria's sovereignty and regional stability. Meanwhile, in Israel, the IDF said that they intercepted a missile that was fired from Yemen after there were sirens in Jerusalem and the West Bank and around the Dead Sea. In terms of other international responses, the 2 furthest right Israeli ministers were barred from 29 EU states. This was after the Netherlands declared them persona non grata. This just was announced today. The cabinet made the decision to declare the ministers Ben-Gvir and Smotrich persona non grata, according to the Dutch government. So that's what's happening in the international news. I wanted to close with an update on Christians in the Middle East. On Monday, September 8th, yesterday, the judge issued their decision about Shadi Hori. We've been talking about this case for years now. Shadi's case had a long, lengthy battle. Shadi was convicted. So yesterday, after 2 years and 11 months of procrastination in the corridors of the occupation courts after an arrest that was accompanied by torture, Shadi's steadfastness during the interrogation, a full year of house arrest, 37 consecutive court sessions, the judge issued his decision and convicted Shadi. Shadi was accused, if you recall, the case of lynching a car. He was not even in Jerusalem at the time. There were several other young men who were arrested in the incident. He was the only Christian. The other young men were Muslim. It's believed that they were tortured and that they gave up Shadi's name. Is the law the standard in the occupation courts? Can we expect justice from a judicial system that operates within a colonial system? Absolutely not. Nevertheless, the lesson remains. We must not be lenient in any case, and we must not allow the occupation to single out our children. The road ahead is long, but our children's future deserves patience and a long breath. That was written by a family member of Shadi Hori. The court date for sentencing is set to be ruled on December 15th, 2025. Pray for Shadi Hori, pray for his mother, pray for his family, pray for all of the more than 2,000 people who are held under Israeli administrative detention without trial. Pray for all who are suffering in Gaza, those who long for hostages to be returned home. May God go before us in our efforts towards a just peace and lasting peace in the Middle East. In the name of Christ, amen.